Hello, this is Alan, welcoming you to the 1894th edition of the Enfield Talking newspaper, Dateline 28th of February 2013. The readers this week are Jenny, Sonya, Phil and me, with Keith on the controls. The items that we will be reading come from our local newspapers, the Enfield Gazette, the Enfield Advertiser and the Enfield Independent, and are their copyright. Local stories include Father Guilty of Rape, Wildlife Hospital Safe, a sharp rise in housing benefit claims, and concerns over cash reserves as council tax freeze to be agreed. First of all, there's a special news item, and it's a quick notice from Diane, Keith and Muriel about the magazine tape. They say, "Thank you all for the positive feedback about the magazine. We are currently collating content for the next edition and would like to have the magazine tapes and wallets returned as soon as possible, please. When you have finished listening to the magazine, please return the tape and the wallet to us in the usual way. Thank you." If you are experiencing any problems receiving your Enfield Talking newspaper, please phone Diane de Jersey on 020-8805-6578. She is your listener's representative and will be pleased to help you. At the end of side 2, please remember to turn over the address label in your postal packet, put the cassette into the packet, and return it to us as soon as possible, in readiness for the next edition. And now Sonya will read the first item of local news.
A father has been found guilty of sexually abusing his daughter and raping his stepdaughter in Edmonton in the 1980s. Members of the jury were unanimous in convicting the Enfield man, who cannot be named in order to protect the anonymity of his victims, of all 9 counts of sexual abuse and rape against the girls, who were both under 13 at the time of the abuse. The man's wife, who is not the mother of the victims, ran out of court in tears once she heard the jury call out the guilty verdicts following his week-long trial at Wood Green Crown Court in Lordship Lane. The man remained silent as he was led from the dock minutes after the guilty verdicts were read to the court last Friday. Despite protesting his innocence, the paedophile was found guilty of 2 counts of sexual intercourse with a girl under the age of 13, 1 count of rape, 2 counts of indecency with a child, and 4 counts of indecently assaulting a woman. He had sex with his stepdaughter when his younger daughter was watching television in the same room. The court heard testimonies from his daughter and stepdaughter, who said he started molesting his stepdaughter as soon as she hit puberty. When she escaped to live with relatives, the paedophile started to sexually abuse his own daughter in their family home. His stepdaughter reported the rapist in November 2011, and his daughter also agreed to testify against him during the trial, which started on Monday. Although no attempt was made to ask for bail, Judge Rosa Dean ordered that he be remanded in custody as there were substantial grounds to believe he would fail to attend his sentencing now he has been found guilty. Because he is a convicted paedophile, she also said bail would not be appropriate due to the risk of him committing further offences. Judge Dean told him to expect a very lengthy custodial sentence when he reappears at the court next Friday. She decided not to sentence him immediately, to allow the victims a chance to attend. The court heard the man was fined £150 last year for breaching a non-molestation order against a child, and was also fined £150 for theft in 1981. The man's mother-in-law, who also remains anonymous to protect the victims, said she was overjoyed with the verdict reached by the jury. His father-in-law said, Justice has been done for the victims.
A businessman has pledged to double the cash raised by an Enfield independent campaign to save the last wildlife animal hospital in London. David Mills, proprietor of Clock House Nursery in 40 Hill, read about the financial difficulty of the Wildlife Rescue and Ambulance Service in Trent Country Park and decided to donate £5,000 to help the centre. The generous donation comes just one day after the Enfield Independent announced its campaign to raise £5,000 for the centre has been a success. Mr. Mills had previously been in touch with Barry and June Smitherman, who run the animal hospital with volunteers, when wild animals were discovered on site. Mr. and Mrs. Smitherman saved a swan which landed in the nursery's car park and was unable to fly off due to lack of space. They have also helped treat foxes found in pallets. Mr. Mills, whose family set up the garden centre in 1921, said he wanted to help because the charity was cherished by many people in the borough, adding that he knew the money would be fully used to help the good cause. In total, the Enfield Independent campaign has raised a much-needed £10,000 for the centre. The paper sprung into action in November after reporting that the shelter had experienced financial difficulties when visitor numbers dropped due to the wet weather last year. The charity relies on public donations and £10,000 annually from Enfield Borough Council to treat sick, injured and trapped animals at the on-site hospital before returning them to the wild.
Enfield is facing the third biggest increase across London in the number of people claiming housing benefit, new government figures reveal. The borough saw the number of claimants rise from 12,330 to 15,910 between March 2011 and December 2012, an increase of 29%, and the biggest spike in the capital after Newham and the neighbouring borough of Barnet, which witnessed a whopping 45% increase. But while the number of claimants in outer London boroughs rose, Westminster experienced a drop of 1,290, and in Islington the number fell by 4%, down to a total of 3,070. According to Enfield Council, the trends are a result of rising rents and changes to housing benefit which were implemented in 2011. The amount private tenants can claim has been capped and housing benefit has been reduced. Ahmet Euchner, Cabinet Member for Housing, said, "Migration into Enfield is a result of benefit cuts and puts immense pressure on housing, school places and the provision of health and social care. Our borough is faced with a double whammy. We have increasingly fewer properties available, but more people coming in, and at the same time other London boroughs who receive much larger homelessness prevention grants are placing homeless families here because rents are cheaper. We want to avoid sending people out of the borough, but if we do not have the properties available, what is the council supposed to do? There are not enough properties available, and we are not getting any money from the government to build new council homes." Edward Smith, the Conservative Shadow Member for Housing, said, "This is an issue for Enfield residents and putting huge strain on council resources. But we don't feel we can do much about the policy framework, and we support the welfare reforms. The Labour administration needs to start exploring the option of housing families in cheaper areas outside the borough and outside the M25. An investigation by the Advertiser in October found that more than 1,000 homeless families had been placed in Enfield by other London authorities. Migration from inner to outer London boroughs is expected to increase in April when a range of benefit cuts are implemented.
Council tax looks set to be frozen for the second year in a row. The proposal to freeze council tax for the 2013-2014 financial year is expected to be ratified at a meeting of Enfield's full council. It comes after the government agreed to give local authorities that freeze council tax a grant equal to the equivalent of a 1% increase. The council tax freeze will come as welcome news to residents struggling to make ends meet, as will the recommendation that councillors' expenses should remain the same as last year and not increase in line with inflation. Although the local authority is to freeze council tax as well as aiming to protect budgets for a range of services, leader of the Conservative group, Michael Lavender, said he was concerned by some aspects of the budget plans. One key thing that concerns me this year is looking at what the Labour group is planning to do with the reserves, he said. The leader of the opposition group explained that council reserves should remain above a certain level at all times to provide a financial cushion if anything goes wrong. Looking at their plans for the reserves, they will be down to zero in a few years, he added. The point being that the Labour Council is using the reserves for things that they should not be used for. Over to Sonya.
Enfield has the 6th highest number of children living in poverty in London, according to statistics released last week. A report published by the End Child Poverty campaign on Wednesday revealed that 29% of children living in Enfield are currently living below the poverty line. The report also provides an in-depth breakdown of poverty levels in each ward of the borough, revealing that 43% of youngsters living in Edmonton Green are in poverty-stricken households. The figures also show the disparity in wealth between the east and west of the borough. Only 7% of children living in Grange Ward fall below the poverty line, compared with 41% of kids in Enfield Highway. According to the charity's researchers, a family of 4 with an income of less than £18,273 would qualify as being below the poverty line. Acknowledging that child poverty in Enfield is at crisis point, Deputy Council Leader Achilles Georgiou told the Advertiser that the figures were to be expected after 2 years of cuts to public spending by the government. The reality is that cuts to benefits affect the poorest in society, admitted the Labour councillor. With more cuts coming in April, poverty will increase and health will inevitably suffer as a result. But Mr Georgiou stressed that the regeneration schemes for Ponders End, the North Circular Road and the Ladderswood estate in New Southgate will lift hundreds of families out of the poverty trap. It is all about jobs, he said. We are attracting major firms into the borough and strongly encouraging those firms to employ local apprentices, which will mean that these projects will directly benefit all the residents of the borough.
A man wielding a knife was arrested after being tasered by police officers at North Middlesex University Hospital on Monday afternoon. The man was seen shouting loudly near the main reception of the hospital in Stirling Way, Edmonton, just after 1 p.m, causing concern among patients and staff. The 38-year-old was tasered and subsequently arrested on suspicion of a fray and possessing an offensive weapon. A witness told the Advertiser, "I had been given some treatment and was in the waiting area when I heard a woman screaming for security. She came running past and then disappeared. When I saw what was happening, I panicked because I am unable to run. Everyone was panicking, running away and calling for security, but no one appeared for about 10 minutes. I panicked and moved towards the front door. I was very scared, and then I saw 2 police officers arrive. They were looking for him. I am still very nervous. You see this in the movies, but to experience it in real life was total madness." The man remained in custody at a North London police station as the Advertiser went to press. A hospital spokeswoman said, "The outpatient service is now running as normal. We apologise to patients affected by this delay. We thank our staff for handling this rare occurrence professionally and are grateful for the support of the police.
People living in Enfield have been invited to have their say on the future of policing in the borough. Enfield Borough Council, the Metropolitan Police and the London Fire Brigade have launched a survey to find out if people agree with its draft crime-fighting priorities for next year. The current plan aims to focus on tackling serious youth violence, violence against women, theft, antisocial behaviour and community engagement. The Council's Cabinet Member for Community Wellbeing and Public Health, Councillor Christine Hamilton, said, "It's really important that residents have their say on what crimes we focus our efforts on and make sure the offences we are tackling are the ones that concern our communities the most." A consultation meeting will start at 7 p.m. tomorrow in Enfield Civic Centre in Silver Street in Enfield Town. Further meetings will be planned at railway stations, during which people can complete questionnaires and vote for priorities.
Struggling music giant HMV will close its Enfield Town shop, despite hopes that it might have been saved. Administrators Deloitte announced last Wednesday that the Church Street shop has fallen victim to the latest wave of store closures throughout the UK. Hopes were raised when the Enfield entertainment shop escaped the first round of 66 closures announced less than a fortnight ago. However, it is now expected to shut its doors for the last time in the next 4 to 6 weeks, along with 36 other branches earmarked for closure. Nick Dubois, MP for Enfield North, said, "People need to change their buying habits to protect their high streets and prevent further chains from closing." The Conservative politician said, "It is very disappointing, but clearly not enough people are shopping at HMV stores. I suppose more are doing it online, so this is bad news for Enfield High Street and all other high streets. We have got to adapt to the changes in people's buying behaviour. We can't just expect things to go on as they were." However, he called for parking charges to come down, adding, "Our shops need help, not barriers." 10 people working at the Enfield store are expected to lose their jobs. Mark Rudling, Enfield Town's town centre manager, said, "All I can say is I'm very disappointed. It will be a loss to Enfield, but we have got to think positively that there might well be people interested to fill that unit. It is not that Enfield is not cutting the mustard. It is no reflection on Enfield. Like the loss of Jessops a few weeks ago, we have very little control over these organisations." Nick Edwards, Joint Administrator of HMV, said, "This step has been taken in order to enhance the prospects of the restructured business continuing as a going concern. Together with the previously identified 66 closures, this restructuring will result in a residual portfolio of some 116 stores. We are extremely grateful to the staff for their continued strong support and commitment during an understandably difficult period." HMV, established in 1921, went into administration in January, putting 4,350 jobs at risk in its 239 stores in the UK and the Republic of Ireland.
A house that breathes may sound like the tagline of the latest Hollywood horror film, but in Ponders End, the first living, breathing Echo House is coming to life. A hemp house, the first of its kind in the country, is taking shape in Savile Row after the owners decided they liked the sound of a house made of a completely natural material. Construction firm North London Construction, based in Aylands Road, Enfield, is at the cutting edge of the eco-build industry. Managing Director Nick London told the Advertiser how he had come across the revolutionary idea for a completely natural home. "I went to France to see what kind of eco-materials they were using," he said. "I saw the hemp blocks, brought the idea back to Enfield and developed it for the UK market." Although made from the same plant that produces cannabis, Nick says there will be no unusual side effects from breathing in deeply inside the house. And he insists that rather than a chemical high, the new residents will have an atmosphere free from the usual toxins that clog up our homes. "It is a completely breathable fibre," he said. "There are far fewer chemicals in the production process, so it is better for your health." Although the house is springing up out of sustainable Douglas fir timber and hemp with lime rendering, according to Nick, it would look like any other house on the street. And it will be just as resistant to the ravages of the weather as its neighbouring properties. The state-of-the-art technology is at the forefront of the eco-building industry, and Nick predicts that people building their own homes will jump at the chance to use the new product. In this case, the clients were very eco-friendly themselves and wanted to try something state-of-the-art, he added. People who are building their own homes tend to be at the forefront of eco-build technologies, and we are planning on rolling this new system out across the whole of the UK.
Dumping rubbish in a park has cost a fly tipper £80. Enfield's Park Police launched an undercover operation in Durrance Park in Enfield Highway, following a series of complaints about rubbish blighting the area. The culprit, in his late 30s, was caught red-handed last Wednesday evening when he was spotted dumping carrier bags of rubbish near the park's entrance. Officers funded by Enfield Borough Council approached the man and issued him with the fine. The Cabinet Member for Environment, Councillor Chris Bond, said, "We do not tolerate people who treat our parks like dustbins. I am delighted this individual has been caught and punished. The fine will deter him from future illegal behaviour and means Durrance Park can continue to be enjoyed as a safe and pleasant environment for the entire community, free from litter and other mess."
A man was in a critical condition in hospital as we went to press after being attacked near Arnos Grove Underground Station at the weekend. The 26-year-old victim was attacked at the junction of Bowes Road and Palmer's Road shortly after midnight on Saturday. Police are appealing for information and are asking witnesses to call 101 or ring Crime Stoppers anonymously on 0800 555 111.
An impressive performance from 15-year-old Callum Wilkinson saw him claim third place and a new personal best at Enfield Race Walking League's 5-mile opening fixture. Wilkinson produced a blistering final mile to move from 7th to 3rd place in the men's race, and his time of 43.04 improved his personal best by more than 4 minutes. His next race is at Coventry on April the 28th over 5 kilometres, where he aims to qualify for the Young England team for their annual match against Ireland in Dublin in the summer. We have now reached the end of side 1 of this tape. Please stop your machine now, take out the cassette, turn it over, and start side 2.